I received a ton of great comments on my CK3 Chapter 2 DLC review video where many of you wrote down what you hope to see in the upcoming DLC chapters. Today I'd like to talk about what I felt were the most commonly asked for features in hopes that someone at Paradox maybe gets eyes on this and we perhaps put the community's voice to the great creator's ear, so to speak. Now, something to get out of the way early is that it's difficult, pretty much impossible not to compare CK2 to CK3. It's inevitable that people coming from CK2 would be a bit miffed to see many of its popular features absent in CK3 3 years post-launch. Therefore, it's no surprise that two of the most requested features in the comments of my Chapter 2 DLC review were from two of the most popular CK2 DLCs, and coincidentally back-to-back DLCs, Reaper's Due and Monks and Mystics. Now, for those of you who don't know what these two DLCs are, let me give you a brief overview on each so you can better understand these features and draw your own conclusion on if these sound interesting to you or not. Reaper's Due was the 10th major expansion for Crusader Kings 2 and was released August of 2016. CK2 came out February of 2012, so that's about 4.5 years post-release in case you were curious. The main feature of the DLC was death, specifically epidemics and diseases, with a focus on the Black Death, which made it imperative for the player to be proactive in their response to the disease or reap the consequences. Before the DLC, and much like CK3 now, smallpox and other small epidemics would affect your realm sporadically, but were and are otherwise not much to fear. But with Reaper's Due, the option to close off your castle and kingdom to the disease was added, which would lead to civil unrest and fear. Epidemics were also visible on the map and caused great death with corpse carts, rats, graves markers, and body burning. You had the option to build hospitals, which could lead to prosperity and reduce the risk of epidemics affecting your kingdom, and it also added general illnesses like flu or cancer and added court physicians, which CK3 already has. In CK3, it seems like these illnesses, although they do kind of exist, almost always lead to either being infirmed or go away before they have any real consequences and are overall seen more as a nuisance than something interesting. Reaper's Due also added some more executions as well, which is interesting but also exists in the game already to some degree, although not perhaps as dramatically as it did in CK2. Monks and Mystics was the 11th major expansion for CK2, which came out in March of 2017, or just over 5 years post-release. The main feature of the DLC was societies, secret and open like monks and assassins, which were added to the different regions of the world and missions within those societies to gain ranks, as well as abilities the player could use based on the society's influence in the region. The DLC also added quite a few features which already exist in CK3, like the inventory and artifact system, general counselor jobs, and mass prisoner actions like executions, release, or ransom. Like with Reaper's Due, some of the features are already here in CK3, and it feels a little bit like the most recent DLC, Legacy of Persia, has been touching on this feature with secret religions, so it wouldn't really surprise me to see this announced as partially or completely returning in Chapter 3, which I think a lot of people would be pleased with to see as an expansion. I think being able to be in a secret society and rank up within it, given the focus put on ranks and levels in the Tours and Tournaments DLC, is not only a no-brainer, but would be a slam dunk feature going forward. Likewise, an expansion of the illness system and the addition of plagues or epidemics not only feels culturally timely given that CK3 released in the middle of a global pandemic, but also not too difficult to add considering many illnesses already exist within the game already, so really it would just be changing how much they affect the overall game. Personally, I'd be happy to see either or both of these return to CK3, although I imagine it would be in some altered or perhaps even advanced form. Now, even though these were probably two of the most requested or talked about features that people want to see return from CK2, there was one other feature, and several others, but one other one that came up probably more than any other, and that was the expansion of the Empire system, specifically the Byzantine and the Holy Roman Empire. I'm not exactly sure what people are looking for with this one, but it seems that the Legacy of Rome DLC in particular is a selling point that people want to make for enhancing the Byzantine experience. Apparently a lot of it is underdeveloped. It's not a region that I play a lot, but it is one of the more popular regions, as well as the Holy Roman Empire, Central Europe obviously being a huge influence in the region at the time. So it doesn't really surprise me that people are asking for this. I do think having more features as opposed to just being a kingdom, like having maybe somebody suggested having double counselors as an empire would be really cool, so that you could sort of advance what you're doing, having more influence, have more options, rather than just sort of having a bunch of kingdoms like duchies underneath you without any penalty. I think that empires definitely need some work, although frankly I'm not really sure, so if somebody wanted to leave in the comments what you think an empire could do to improve, you could obviously talk about that. Another big one that people wanted to talk about were the Mongols, or like a step overhaul, sort of like how Legacy of Persia just got a big DLC. People were talking about maybe doing a Mongol or a step like flavor pack basically, so giving you some starts in that region that are interesting and obviously leading to you either being with or fighting against Genghis Khan, so sort of like a buff to Genghis Khan and the Mongols when that comes around. I think that could be really cool. Personally, again, not a time period that I play a lot in, and I also play a lot of modded CK3, so a lot of the stuff doesn't impact me, but I usually play in the earlier start dates, personally, but it seems that people really want to see more of Asia enhanced, and probably Africa as well, since those are both underutilized. I think Northern Africa could desperately use a flavor pack as well. People, they don't really like the struggle system, and they're a little bit worried that struggles are going to become one of the main features of most of the upcoming DLC, and I actually really like this system because I think it gives these battles, these regions, a little more dynamic. Like somebody suggested doing a struggle in England post-Danelaw when the Danes invade, and I think that's a really cool idea. Trying to get them out of or integrate them even further in England could be really cool. I think that the fate of Iberia being the first struggle definitely soured a lot of people's opinions because it is a very difficult struggle to end, whereas the Legacy of Persia struggle is a much easier in my opinion and also more enjoyable. It feels more fleshed out. I can only imagine that if we do see more struggles, they would be sort of enhanced like this, although obviously that's, you know, up to your own interpretation. If you hate the struggle system as it is, you're going to hate it either way. But I don't really want to see struggles go away. I just hope, kind of like other people, that you won't see them all the time, because it does feel like a lazy way to just add new content. If you're going to add a bunch of struggles, just do them all at once rather than just doing them, you know, okay, here's a struggle in Asia, here's a struggle in Africa. Just do like a bunch of struggles, or maybe put an element in the game that allows them to happen organically, like the Nemesis system, because that could be cool too. They obviously won't be as fleshed out, but that would still be an interesting mechanic. These last two ones, one of them is me. I'd like to see trade or guilds in general get added to the game. I think that you could sort of use that society idea, like the open societies, and sort of expand that to being like guilds, and then trade where you could actually play a republic like Venice or Genoa, like, you know, more effectively or at all, really. Being able to trade, I think, would make playing tall viable, because as of right now, there's not really a reason to do so. But if you just have a trade empire where your family is only trading, then maybe doing something like that Habsburg, where, you know, you only marry to expand your empire trophy would make more sense, because you'd be more inclined to do so because you have other ways to play the game rather than just, I guess I'll go to war again, or I guess I'll just sit here marrying people until I'm bored. I think it would just do a lot to flesh out the game. Plus, guilds could be really cool for sort of like, I don't know, role playing. Like maybe your family is really famous for making swords, or they sell a lot of honey or wine or something. Like it adds a lot of potential. Really, the options are limitless with this. So I would like to see that. And then just Crusades in general. People have mentioned that they haven't gotten a lot of love, and they are kind of janky. Crusades and Jihads in general, like on both ends. I wouldn't be surprised if this got some love here soon. I think in general, though, the battle system, like overall, could use work, like I said in my previous video. So if they did like a general like war overhaul, I would like to see Crusades added to that, although of course the specific details would obviously be up to them. I'm not exactly an expert on anything like this. Like obviously I don't know how game design works or anything along those lines. I'm just a dude who plays games. But as far as trade goes, I think that the obvious thing would be to just put it in the game. Obviously you can update it over time, but I would really love to see guilds or like trade a society thing. That would be really cool. Some last things here. So somebody suggested something that I really, really liked. And they said automated gameplay mechanics, like more freedom to assign basically work to your vassals besides just like, okay, you train troops, you improve the capital, like basically allowing them to not only like build things, but maybe raise their army, sort of like what you can do with your regent, where you're like, I want you to build up wealth, I want you to build up troops or whatever. Sort of like make it so your counselors have a little bit more option, like more tasks they can do that feel more dynamic, and maybe even tasks that they can just do separate from the counselor tree, because that could be something really cool where like the game sort of builds up automatically around you. Because where it is right now, it feels like nothing really happens unless the player is doing it, and that's not how the world works. So I think that giving not only the AI but the player and the player's vassals more options to do things automatically would go a long way. Someone suggested like you could have the AI like build castles up. Like you'd say like, okay, this specific region, I want them to improve everything here. Not the development, but like the buildings they're in. So like when you have a certain amount of money, or you could even have them like take out a certain amount of taxes every month. Like you could say like, okay, well for 2 gold every month, this person's going to upgrade buildings every like once every 5 years or something. Like that would be a really cool feature. I mean, because as somebody who plays usually for like a couple hundred years at a time, sometimes I forget to build buildings. So like if the AI already did that, if I was like, okay, this counselor do that, that'd be really cool. I don't know. I thought it was something that would be interesting. Just like more freedom, more automation just in general that add like some dynamic storytelling and gameplay elements, I think would be cool. Now, while trying to be realistic about all we've talked about so far, I've created my own personal Chapter 3 wish list after taking into consideration what the community has said in my comments and my own personal wants. Now, granted, I've parsed through about 200 comments here, and not obviously all of them have been mentioned. There was a lot of great suggestions. I'm just going over the ones that I saw the most. But I'm going to include 5 DLCs in my Hypothetical Chapter 3 DLC pack. We got 4 in 2, we got 3 in 1. Why not make it 5 from here on? Give people a little more value for their purchases. I'm even going to throw in a clothing pack at the beginning here, just to make it a little easier, since that seems to be the trend they're going towards anyway. Also, technically, 2 of my suggestions could be combined into 1, so we could make it 4 if you really wanted to, if you just wanted to keep it at that 4. So here you go. So my Chapter 3 wish list is number 1, an Africa or Asia clothing pack. I think Europe gets a lot of love when it comes to, dressing up, so why not expand some of that drip, to other regions? I think that especially doing one in the Far East would be really cool, like with India and China and even in like the Mongol region. Could be something that people would really be down for. I think everybody loves more clothes, more stuff to put on their characters, so I don't see why this would be a bad move. Africa's the same way. These are 2 regions that don't get a lot of love, so giving them at least a taste of something might go a long way for people that are fans of those regions. Number 2, a society expansion pack. To me, this one would be like stupidly cool, considering all of this would allow you to do. You could be like a mercenary, you could be a witch hunter, you could be in a cult, you could be really anything, you could be a witch. This opens up the door for trade and guilds as well if you really wanted to do them in one, or you could have that DLC right around the corner. You've already added secret religions and assassins to the game anyway, so why not make them joinable and something that you can rank up in? I think that'd be really cool. Also gives a little more dynamic to maybe spreading your religion instead of just like clicking a button, which I know was a feature people were upset about in the Legacy of Persia DLC. This way, maybe you have to spread the influence in the guild, maybe even level up in the cult or whatever you're in, and then you would be able to, I don't know, sort of like take over the religious institution from within, which would be really, really cool in my opinion. So number 3, again, it could be added to number 2, but this is a trade guild flavor pack. To me, this would create a huge new way to play the game. Maybe your family is known for making famous swords, like I said, and then you can just sort of like bundle this into the societies already in the game. Your character could join guilds, you could become a trader or a mason or really whatever and work your way through the ranks until maybe you're the leader or the master of that order or that guild. Obviously, these kind of play off each other, so really this could just be one. I just like the idea of like being able to join a guild as a character. Maybe you're not, maybe you're not like some grand king. Maybe you're just a duke and you're like, I kind of just want to be a trader, or I kind of just want to like make cool armor. I want my family to be known for that. I don't want to rule. I don't want to be an emperor. Like this gives more reasons to play as those lower ranks, or like to be those, less important quote quote characters. Obviously you're still a noble, you still have lands, but I think this would allow people to feel more comfortable and allow people to role play the way they want to play a little bit more. If you added this with societies, you would have, that's just so many features. I get chills thinking about it. Literally, there's so much potential for this. I think that if you're going to add anything, societies, secret societies and open societies is a must. Like bring that back as soon as possible. Number 4, only because I saw this so much, I wouldn't even have considered this because as I said previously, I don't play in this region, but the Byzantine flavor pack I think is a must. That, or just call it the Empire flavor pack. But sort of like Legacy of Rome, it needs some work. It needs love. Clearly people want it. I think that if I was going to tell them anything, honestly, it would be to do this, just because it was literally the most commonly requested thing that I saw in the comments. There must have been like half of them were talking about Byzantine flavor pack. So really, I have no other reason other than that, because it's not something that I play as, because I don't usually like to start as an empire or like any of the other things in that region. But maybe this would incentivize me to give it a try if we got some of those features added over from CK2. It's not a bad idea, right? And then number 5, this one I actually didn't really talk about, but I'd like to see an endgame crisis pack, and maybe this is the total war player in me, but when someone mentioned having like a bigger bad to face in the end of the game, like a Mongol overhaul, it got me thinking that I kind of want more invasions just in general. Maybe it's based off of like, you're a European kind of close to like Islamic lands and their fervor is really high. So they invade you with a huge force, but it's not technically a jihad. It's sort of just like a surprise attack. I don't know if that would even make sense, but I just feel like having more endgame challenges for people who really like those battles, or like trying to figure out like how to beat a big boss, you know, because it is fun, like trying to face some big foe that you know is going to eventually be coming. Like maybe you're from a region that's coveted by another one, sort of like, you know, in some mods they do like, you know, a character whose land was famously invaded by like the Franks or something, and so you only have like 10 years to set up before they invade you. You could sort of do something like that, but maybe make it like, okay, you have 100 years and these people are going to come. Literally like the Mongols, but just with other stuff. I don't know what specifically. I'm sure this sort of thing happened. Somebody in the comments could maybe point this out for me, but I think it'd be fun. I'm sure you noticed I didn't include Reaper's Due in this because to me it does sound really awesome, but since I don't want to ask for 2 expansions because I think that would be a lot, I'd probably like to see it in Chapter 4 because personally, if I was going to pick between the 2, I would rather have Monks and Mystics sort of expanded in, you know, like, I don't know, I guess elaborated further on rather than more epidemics, because I think they're cool and they definitely add a lot of dynamic and like cool storytelling and just, I guess, fear. The Black Death is obviously something that's huge and I would like to see it in the game, but I would rather see more role-playing. As I've said, I'm a big role-play player. I know it's not for everybody. I don't deny that I like the role-play elements, and I think the Societies adds a lot of options to sort of be like, I don't know, it like reminds me of Warband a little bit, like Mountain Blade, where you can sort of like be a trader and also like a lord. I think it's cool. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But I would like to see the other one, Reaper's Due, added in like a little bit further. But I feel like that would have to wait till Chapter 4, at least to me personally. You can obviously say how you feel down in the comments, but you know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you think that needs to be added first. Maybe the Byzantine needs to be the expansion. I have no idea. What do you think? But that is going to be it for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm not one to usually do like a speculation type video for this, but after the overwhelmingly positive, you know, feedback I got on that last video and just all the great comments that people were saying about things that they want to see in Chapter 3, I decided that, you know what, maybe I should try to voice some of your opinions. I hope I did an okay job of doing that. I know that it's hard not to make an overlong video about this. I didn't want to spend 30 minutes speculating about things that we'd want to see. I wanted to just make something quick, something that you could either, you know, agree or disagree to, and maybe make further conversation here in the comments, so that with the hopes of Paradox seeing this and hearing this or whatever, maybe they'll get some eyes on your comments and they will add some of those features into the game, because ultimately all we want is to have a good game that lives up to its predecessor and that we can all enjoy for years to come. But that is going to be it for me. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you like the video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. And as I said previously on the channel in my community post, I do plan on covering Crusader Kings updates as they arise, so look out for those in the future. But that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll happily see you in the next one.